Hi everyone. Good morning and happy Monday. Hope you're having a great start to your week. And in today's podcast episode, we're going to explore a topic that touches nearly everyone at some point in their lives: the concept of loneliness. Understanding loneliness is very important, I think, because it is a complex emotion, um, often misunderstood, you know, in today's society. Despite being surrounded by people, even in relationships, many of us experience moments of profound loneliness. Loneliness is more than just physical solitude, it's a deep emotional disconnect, often experienced even when surrounded by others. Despite the prevalence of relationships, many still grapple with a profound sense of isolation, longing for genuine connection and understanding in a world that often fails to provide it. Just to be in someone's company, you have to put on masks and compromise your true authentic self so that you will not be left alone. But you have always been alone because you could never be your true self, and nobody was ever there for your true self, your authentic self. So I think first we need to understand loneliness, why we feel lonely, and we can incorporate a lot of strategies to do that. We can incorporate shadow work to understand the first time we felt lonely in our life and how that feeling continues. Um, so let me talk about why do we experience loneliness. One reason is that loneliness isn't just about physical isolation, it's also about feeling disconnected from others on an emotional level. In relationships, this disconnection can manifest as a lack of understanding, lack of communication, and obviously lack of effort. If only one person is putting in the efforts and the other person is just enjoying the game of life, the one putting in the effort will often feel alone. But is the other partner who is enjoying the game should be blamed? And when I say the other partner, I'm not talking about just romantic relationship. It could be about friendships, it could be about any platonic relationship, right? So think about it. If we are talking about loneliness in relationships, is the other person who is enjoying the game of life and not putting in the efforts making you feel alone should be blamed? Should that person be blamed? Well, if you ask me, I don't think so. No, they should not be blamed. The one who is putting the effort and doesn't have the courage to leave should be blamed. But again, there is a paradox also, the paradox of relationships, because it's a common misconception that being in a relationship automatically shields us from loneliness. If you feel alone, people often tell you, make friends, get in a relationship, uh, you know, get a good partner so you will not feel alone. This is a common paradox, common misconception in our society. But the truth is more nuanced. Sometimes being in a relationship can actually intensify feelings of loneliness even more, especially if the connection lacks depth or authenticity. I always hear people talk about how entering a relationship will banish loneliness, yet reality often proves otherwise. This paradox emerges from the misconception that companionship alone can dispel inner emptiness. But if there is lack of genuine connection, and deeper emotional needs are not addressed, it will make your life hell. Have you ever found yourself feeling lonelier in a relationship than when you were single or when you were not with anybody? It's a perplexing experience, one that highlights the importance of quality over quantity in relationships. I've seen firsthand how surface level connections and friendships can leave individuals feeling more isolated than ever. It's as if the facade of companionship only serves to magnify the void within, reminding us of the depth we long for, but have yet to find. And I actually found shadow work uh, very helpful. Some people will not agree with me, but I found shadow work very helpful when I was dealing with loneliness. Of course, I had a lot of people in my life, I still do. But again, even when I was, uh, spending time with them, even when I was among these people, could be friends or even, the partnerships or anything, I always felt alone. Reason, there was always that void inside. And one powerful tool that helped me uh, deal with those feelings was shadow work, the process of exploring and integrating our hidden or repressed aspects. Shadow work invited me to confront the parts of myself I had buried beneath layers of conditioning, layers of societal expectations. And it's I don't know why, like, this episode is actually making me recall my own journey through shadow work. It was a turbulent but transformative uh, process into the depths of my being. Um I unearthed long forgotten fears, insecurities, and unmet needs and desires and goals I had for myself. And it also encouraged me to confront my inner demons, my inner unresolved emotions. You know. Now let me share a few tips that worked for me. Tips for finding happiness alone. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be alone. You could be in a relationship, you could have many friends and many people around you, but if you still feel alone, these are the tips that have worked for me, and maybe they will work for you as well. And I understand relationships can bring joy and companionship, but I think it is also important to cultivate happiness and fulfillment within ourselves. You should not be dependent on others for your happiness. So, the first thing that has always worked is practicing self love and self compassion, treating yourself with kindness and understanding, embracing your flaws and celebrating your strengths, and recognizing your inherent worthiness. And also remember, your worthiness, your self worth should not dependent on external factors. Try to engage yourself in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment, because it's very common to go through an identity crisis or forget about your own identity when you are in a relationship, when you have a lot of people around you, or even just one person. You can forget about yourself because that's how things go. Like, life takes its course, and you are so invested in others. um, and we don't and even if you're not invested in others, we are just invested in superficial activities, and we forget about what brings us happiness, what ignites us. So engage yourself in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Explore your hobbies, your passions that ignite your soul. It could be painting, it could be writing, hiking, dancing, singing, and start prioritizing those activities that bring you genuine happiness and fulfillment. Also, prioritize your physical and mental well being. Take care of your body and your mind. Exercise regularly. Nourish yourself with healthy food. And dedicate time to rest and relaxation. Also, additionally, I would say prioritize your mental health through practices like mindfulness, therapy if you want, or meditation and all of that. And set boundaries and prioritize your own needs. Boundaries is a big concept, and I talk a lot about boundaries uh, on this podcast. You need to respect your own boundaries and honor your needs. You don't have to put on masks and do things you don't want to do just to make others feel comfortable. No, let them feel uncomfortable. Why should you compromise, right? Learn to say no to activities or relationships that drain your energy or, compromise your well being. I remember saying yes to a lot of relationships, a lot of friendships that used to drain my energy, but just to make the other person feel good, just to make sure that, they should not feel alone because they were going through something, they were not able to do the healing. And later on, I also realized that maybe I was trying to do the work for them, right? They should have taken responsibility for their life, for their healing. But I thought maybe being, and it is good to be a support, but you can't walk the path for the other person. They have to do the work. So you need to establish healthy boundaries. It's very important for maintaining balance and also preserving your inner peace. And try to cultivate meaningful connections. First, connection with yourself and then connection with others. You need to cultivate connections with people who uh, make you feel good, right? Who make you feel confident in your dreams and goals, who are also giving you, right? Whenever you give, they are also giving you back. They should not be the takers. Try to foster deep connections with people. Invest time in self reflection first. You can do journaling, you can do meditation to deepen your understanding of yourself. And once you know yourself, you can easily, identify people who are good for you, who are good for your soul. Seek out supportive friendships and communities where you can authentically connect with others. Now, what if you are in a relationship and sometimes, we say that, the relationship, we are not compatible, so we should, just leave the relationship. But I have seen, like in certain cases, I've seen people who keep leaving the relationships, but they never find fulfillment in life, right? So in those cases, they are the common denominator, right? So let me share a few strategies, coping strategies for loneliness in an incompatible relationship. And I am saying incompatible, I'm not saying toxic, right? If the relationship is toxic, if it is, if physical or mental abuse is involved, then you should definitely leave the relationship. But sometimes, your partner is very supportive. Your partner is very, he or she is respectful and all of that, but the relationship is incompatible. Maybe you don't have, uh, maybe certain goals. You have, certain, different goals in life, right? Again, if long term goals are different, then I don't know how it's going to work. But if there are certain, like a few things, those are not, you know uh, I mean, like, you don't share. I mean, obviously, like, if both partners have all the things, like, they are like a mirror soul to each other, that also sometimes is not good, because, you know if you should be complementing each other, I think. um, but again, if you find yourself in a relationship where compatibility feels like a distant dream, what should you do? When you and your partner have divergent interests and goals, navigating loneliness can be very challenging. So, let me share the strategies. Otherwise, I'll start rambling again. The first thing I would say is focus on acceptance. Accept that you are an individual and your partner is an individual. Um, you and your partner will have different passions and goals, right? So the first step is always acceptance, accepting the other person as an individual and not just your partner, right? Because sometimes when we say the person is my partner or the person is my friend, we expect them to do things we want to do, we expect them to like things we like, and all of that. So you need to understand, focus on acceptance, understand that you're talking to an individual first. Then nurture that individuality. Now that you understand this concept, take this opportunity as nurturing your independence and individuality. If you're giving the other person the freedom, the opportunity to nurture their individuality, you should also nurture your independence and your individuality. It is important to foster connection within your relationship, but if you're in a relationship where even the other person doesn't, sometimes, let's say, they don't want to work on the connection, right? And obviously, if that is the case, the connection maybe will not work for long. But like certain aspects you can compromise, but for other aspects where you think like nothing can work, it gives you the opportunity to go for your individual pursuits and passions. You can dedicate time to pursue your interests independently. Take this time to explore what you want from your life and grow as an individual. Third step is to communicate effectively. Communication is the key. Open and honest communication is very important. It's very crucial, specifically when we are navigating differences in a relationship. So you should express your feelings and your concerns to your partner and listen attentively to their perspective also, right? Um, Sometimes, working together to find compromises and solutions that honor both of your needs is possible, right? If it is not possible, then you don't have to try to make it work or communicate. You can just start working on yourself and your goals. And it gives your partner also a chance to work on their goals, work on themselves, right? And if nothing works, I would say seek support. Loneliness is an incompatible Loneliness in an incompatible relationship can actually take toll on your emotional well-being also. So it is important to lean on support groups for encouragement and guidance. Specifically, if you're always feeling left alone, uh, like you are, left alone, or in all the relationships in your life, any relationship, pick any relationship, try to seek like-minded people. There are many online communities these days. Try to focus on the good stuff. Try to learn the lesson life is trying to teach you, and honor your journey, you know and remember one thing: being in an incompatible relationship doesn't mean you have to endure loneliness indefinitely. I'm not talking about enduring loneliness and still being stuck in that relationship. I'm talking about using your discernment, right? And sometimes it is possible to find a common ground, sometimes it's not even possible to find the common ground. You can just find what's good in your life. Everyone, every person, every situation, what have you, is sent to match your vibration. You can start working on your vibration. Try to understand where you went wrong and what can you do to not make the same mistake again. And if you make the same mistake again, then be kind to yourself, right? Because making mistakes is part of our journey. We were not sent with a roadmap, right? So we will make mistakes. Be compassionate, be kind to yourself. You are still learning, you are practicing acceptance, you are nurturing your individuality. You have to stay focused on your journey. It's very important in these kind of situations. But I would say try to avoid dependency on external circumstances or external sources or people out there, because there are dangers of seeking validation and happiness from external relationships or even circumstances, because circumstances will change, people change. you know Relying on others for our sense of self-worth or emotional wellness can actually lead to disappointment and dependency. If you are dependent on someone on your emotional for your emotional wellness, and the person also goes through an emotional breakdown, what are you going to do then, right? So try not to depend on others for emotional wellness. Focus on developing a strong sense of self first. Develop inner fulfillment and a strong relationship with your own self. Remember that true happiness comes from within, not from the approval or validation of others. Relying on others for our sense of self worth or our emotional wellness can be a slippery slope. Have you ever found yourself seeking validation from others, hoping their approval would fill a void within you? It's a common trap, one that promises temporary relief but ultimately leaves us feeling empty and unfulfilled. I remember how many times I looked to others to validate my worth, constantly seeking approval and reassurance and an emotional connection. But no matter how much external validation I received, it never seemed to be enough. The emotional connect faded with time. I always found myself in the same spot over and over. It was a humbling realization, a reminder that true happiness could not be found in others. Instead of doing that, invest in building a deep and meaningful relationship with yourself, one rooted in self love, self acceptance, and self authenticity. Take time to explore your passions, your interests, your values. Nurture your mind, your body, your spirit through self care practices and personal growth. Embrace your strengths and vulnerabilities alike. Recognize that they are integral parts of who you are. And as we wrap today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Loneliness is a natural part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to define us. Loneliness is not lack of company, it is actually lack of purpose. If you don't have a purpose in life, you are always going to feel alone. You will always going to feel that, void. The eternal quest of the individual human being is to shatter his loneliness, and by embracing solitude, engaging in shadow work, and finding happiness within ourselves, we can navigate life's ups and downs with resilience and grace. The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to yourself, not to others. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self discovery and introspection. Until next time, remember to cherish the moments of solitude and find joy in your own company. Take care, and I'll see you soon.